Good evening and welcome back to AkuruCon 2021. I'm Malindi Jayatunga, joining with you not from WSL Museum this time, but from my lovely home because the whole AkuruCon team, the whole Akuru collective are at home taking care of ourselves, being safe and being responsible citizens. And we hope that you are doing the same during these trying times. And we hope that you are healthy, happy, and ever curious about AkuruCon. That's why we are bringing AkuruCon straight to your home. We got the whole month of August covered with Akuru. We started from 30 days of Akuru. It's going until September 2nd. So if you haven't participated still, you sketch a letter, doodle something, just send in your submissions. And we also got talks and workshops arranged for all weekends, all Saturdays of August. So last week, we talked about paving the way for Sinhala and Tamil typography with Dr. Uday Kumar from India, Dr. Sumantri Samaravikrama, Adarsh Rajan, and also Pathum Egarawata. So if you missed this session, head over to Akuru YouTube channel where you can catch up on the whole recording. We have uploaded it in 3 parts. So watch the whole recording there. But today we have got another wonderful, interesting session arranged for you. I'm not going to keep talking about this, but I'm going to let you, I'm going to introduce our panel moderator for the day, and I will let her take over from there. So let me introduce Leyanvi Mirando to you. So Leyanvi is an art director and publication designer working at Multilingual, Sri Lanka. Her interest in typography has led her to research culture and typography in Sri Lankan lorry decorations, which she shared at Typography Day 2017, and also at an Colombo type event we recently did. She studied design at the Academy of Design and has been a part of advertising and publishing industry for 7 years. Leyanvi is presently following a master's degree at AOD Graduate School. So that's all about Leyanvi. Leyanvi, the stage is yours. I'll be back when you are done with the session.
Thank you, Malindi. And without further ado, let me introduce you to our 2 speakers today. We have Nisayuru Basnayaka with us, who is the co-founder of Beru Advertising Agency and this little venture called Karidasi. He studied graphic design at RPJ Institute of Design, New Delhi. And Nisayuru has worked in many local and international advertising agencies such as Mirando, Sri Lanka, Triad Advertising, Gobindas, and State of Mind Advertising. His experience spans over 10 years in the industry. We also have Chanuka Wijayasinghe with us today. He's the creative director at Splendor Media. And while he has also worked in renowned international and local agencies such as Ogilvy and Mather, BBDO, Splendor Media, and Triad, also for over a decade now. Chanuka has also won local and international awards for creativity, such as Spikes Asia, Effie's, Young Lions, and local competitions during his career. He studied at Academy of Design and has a degree in visual communications. And he's very well known to say, don't hate challenges, make challenges hate you. And with that, we go into our discussion today, which is multilingual branding and communication in Sri Lanka. We all know about our country. I think our culture and our multilingualism, I think, is a very strong point that we should be proud of. And with that, I think I'm going to straight away go into a question. So I would like to know from our speakers that how far has multilingual branding developed in Sri Lanka currently? And Nisayuru, if you would like to go for it first.
Yeah, so when it comes to multilingual branding in Sri Lanka, it's actually now people have started doing this, and that's actually a good trend. But the problem I see is most of the people see it as like one fit, and then they're trying to fit everything into that. And what I've realized is instead of that, you need to start adopting your brand. Instead of that, you need to find those insights, ideas from the thing. And the other thing that I have to say is how we can is the brand, create brand experience is one of the important things, and use language as a tool. So your brand will not depend on it. So brand will be like a independent entity and use language as a tool. For an example, you look at international examples like for example, Huawei, even Apple. Like even if it comes to Sri Lanka, its identity is there as a Chinese brand, but you can use Sri Lankan idea, Sri Lankan insights, and go into the market. And if you take like a local brand like Sparsilon, it is very Sri Lankan and very local, but it can even go to Turkey and get the ideas, but still be Sri Lankan and still be in that market. So I think we need to look at branding in that perspective, and then things become easier. So
that's interesting. That's how probably language is used as a tool, like to plug and play, and your identity stands alone. Chanuka, what do you have to add to this about development?
Yeah, I think like Nisa also mentioned, what we lack is that commitment in looking at how our brand could sort of evolve into other languages, or how many languages our brand could evolve into, rather than like starting from one so to say main language and then trying to translate. I think we should clearly stay away from things like translating things into your brand versus your branding evolving into certain like cultural nuances or languages or things like that. So I think that's where we need to I think we've been doing it as a country, because you see like boards and everything written in 3 languages, things like that. But I don't think the effectiveness of those things, how far it connects with someone else from a person who from a point of view who doesn't know all 3 languages or 2 languages, that's the scope we need to look into, I think, when it comes to multilingual branding.
Right. And if I may take this towards communication, like we have a lot of platforms to communicate to different audiences living in our country. In that sense, so we have print media, we have radio, and we also have TV and digital platforms. In that aspect, how do you see us using the 3 languages visually? Like, of course, print media and TV, how do you see us using fonts in the 3 languages? Chanuka, if you would like to start by answering that.
Yeah, I think starting from the point that I mentioned earlier also, what happens is we tend to look at brands. I mean, first of all, when I say we, I'm talking about a collective group here, like, design houses, advertising agencies, clients, product developers, all those parties. I think we tend to sort of look at the branding face value much later than we should. So that's where we I mean, sometimes we unfortunately do a whole campaign or branding exercise or a packaging design based on one language that someone only understands by themselves. And then when it comes to adapting that into something greater, or rather when you have to actually get people to embrace your brand or packaging or whichever it is, I think the lack of understanding about other languages comes out. So that's where I think advertising also stands right now, because sometimes we don't tend to think from our roots and cultural nuances and even native languages sometimes. I mean, if we are to think about a premium brand, we start thinking in English as an example. So I think that's where we need to sort of start changing our mechanisms, how we work towards those as well.
Nisayuru, how about you? What has your experience been in this area?
I think the biggest problem is, I think we don't do enough research also. Like Chanuka said, you get a premium brand and then you say it's in English. But I think if you do enough research and you can do a lot of things, and then maybe you can do it in maybe in single as well, because the vast majority in this country can understand single as well. So I think Chanuka answered a lot of things. So I think we need to look in a direction like that. That would be, yeah.
Thank you. So since we are on communication pieces, if I may look at print pieces, for example, we see like Chanuka said, like we start thinking in one language and we start designing for that particular language. Especially in English, we as brand designers, sometimes we have this practice of, from the fonts we choose, we tend to give the brand a personality, right? We tend to use several characteristics from the fonts to emulate our brand or to build in some characteristics for it. Can we do the same with Tamil and Sinhala fonts? And how far have we used this aspect when it comes to Tamil and Sinhala fonts? Chanuka, would you like to?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting point because Nisayuru also always mentions that we are still using like age-old fonts from our available font pools. So I think the amount of time that we invest in sort of developing a font or developing a personality and actually thinking whether this brand personality, it's like basically dressing up in your clothes, right? If you want to look at if you want to look like someone else, or if you want to look unique, or those decisions come with when it comes to branding point of view, I think it comes with time. So you need to sort of put in a certain amount of time from all brand teams perspectives, and then sort of develop little nuances. It doesn't even have to be full font families. It can be like a certain way of you modifying an existing font, things like that. I think that's where we need to start, and then sort of take one little steps towards developing that aspect of what we need to present as a brand personality to whichever parties that are viewing it.
Nisayuru, what do you think on this? Like, do we have enough fonts in Tamil and Sinhala to explore like this?
I think the problem is when it comes to English, there's like millions and millions of fonts. So I think when it comes to Tamil and Sinhala, we usually still those old FM fonts, we still end up going there. And I think recently only there are a few good fonts out there, but there is also like very few. And I'm sure in another year or so, we'll get sick of those fonts as well, because like they're using them a lot. So I think the other problem that I see is like, usually designers, like in big agencies, because of the time factor, you do one visual and then the implementations happen at the studio level. So you will not be even involved in that. So someone will pick whatever the font without knowing your thinking behind it, without, so it just moves from there. Sometimes I feel like, maybe we can move a step back. Like we were discussing earlier, like maybe look at it as maybe, I don't think we'll have the time to do it, but 3 different approaches, and look into fonts like that. And maybe I think we do it sometime into Sinhala, like you sketch the font, you maybe like sketch the headline, and then, but I don't think this happening in Tamil, because I think there are very few Tamil designers that I know of. So I think this is one of the biggest issues. I think it's happening, but it's very slow.
Slowly though. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, another point is like if you look at our Tamil cinema and all that, we see a lot of font modifications and all that happening in the visuals and posters and things like that. So the capability is there. I think, I mean, to be honest, Tamil and English fonts are very, I mean, they have a better chance of like, bonding together because of their shapes.
I think they've been
exactly
developed together also for a long time now. There are plenty of Tamil fonts also.
So I think it's sort of disheartening to see the level of fonts that we have right now. It should be much more. It should be much more.
I think all of us, in Sri Lanka, I think we have a dearth for well-designed Sinhalese fonts and font families actually. That's for sure. I would like to tell the audience that there will be a question and answer session towards the end. So have your questions ready, type them out and send it to us. And that being said, I'd like to go back to asking you all about custom typefaces. How often do we use them, right? And how often do we get the chance to use them? And how about, and actually as a follow-up question, I will ask about our clients as well, but as a beginning, how often do we use custom fonts? What are the chances to actually use or make a custom font for a branding or communication project?
I think
Nisayuru.
you're lucky if you get a chance to do a custom font in Sri Lanka, but only I have done it once or twice in my life. A client requests for a custom font.
Okay.
So I think it's actually a good exercise. But I think the problem is, I think one is money, like you said earlier, and the other one is the time. It takes a lot of time. And the other thing is, most of the people don't see fonts. They just see it as text, just
Sure.
things. But I see it, I think you should see it as a personality, as a person's accent. Like Chanuka was saying, your clothes, how, like, that is, I think, is the text custom font is about. So when you start thinking it like that, I think, I don't know, I think it's up to us to push it also. But that's how I see it. What do you think, Chanuka?
It's definitely one of our responsibilities. I think we mentioned this before, so we can't be blaming the world and saying, like, things are not there, because we are the ones who should be doing it. But yes, like Nisa said, I've also been very rarely fortunate to do custom fonts for any of my clients. It's been a very rare occasion where we do a custom font or do a modification to certain fonts. That being said, I think there have been certain instances where you could, at least, like I said, take an existing font and sort of try something out, something new.
Yeah.
But in the larger scale, I think what we need to focus is on, like I said, investing more time. Investing more time, as in, like, the reason being, clients think about, most probably think about, marketing and advertising as a last resort in Sri Lanka. So that being the situation, I think what we need to do as designers and design houses and agencies is sort of have our tricks up our sleeves and be ready, like, because it does require a lot of time. I think the biggest investment you can put for creating custom fonts is time than money. Then of course we'll have to, like, clients and agencies and design houses will have to figure out how they capitalize that. But I think the biggest investment is putting in a lot of time from the client and brand team perspectives as well. So in that sense, everyone gets to play a part, starting from the smallest designer to client servicing people, brand teams, production teams, and even clients. So through time, I think if it evolves, the matter of money might not be a big issue if you develop typefaces through time for a certain brand, rather than trying to, like, do a burst branding exercise.
I think it should come to a point where it becomes industry practice that we develop for branding, because I think most often what we see a custom font most often building maybe like the financial sector. Banks most often have custom fonts for English, but then sometimes you see even then they fall short when it comes to Sinhalese and Tamil fonts. I'm wondering whether, if so, to the both of you again, I'm wondering whether this is because I think Nisayuru said that it's because they see it as a chunk of text and they don't see the value in fonts. In that case, I think it's our responsibility as designers to educate and build awareness around fonts and what it can do to brands in the future. And then if we were to move on to another question, so if we are to talk about, once again, communications and ad industry, we communicate to different audiences speaking different languages. We touched a little bit on this initially, but Chanuka mentioned earlier about this looking at something in EST. And for people who are not familiar with that, it's English Sinhala Tamil. Like, we get a lot of briefs saying, okay, this is EST. Chanuka, if you would like to talk a bit about that.
Yeah, I think the like I briefly touched upon it also. What we need to do is not think about EST, but we need to think about how many languages can our brand translate to. Or sorry, again, that's another point. You shouldn't be translating anything. You should be adapting and evolving. Your brand should be adapting and evolving into other languages. I know Nisa also holds this point where, like, you know, you can't translate tone of voice and things like that across different languages. So I think that's where we need to sort of look at everything, even if it's a small, very small packaging design. We shouldn't be thinking about it as EST. We have to be thinking about it as whichever language that comes here, whether it's 2 languages, 3 languages, or it's just one totally alien language to us. How do we leave enough, or how do we give enough leverage from our brand to fit into that language, rather than trying to fit the language into our brand? Because languages already exist. Brands are the things that are coming out new. So we need to make sure that those things fit into the language and cultural nuances, then rather than trying to reverse engineer it. I think that's where some a good designer's mind is required as well.
Nisayuru, what are some local examples of how we've used maybe 3 languages?
I can, what I can think of is one that actually good example, but he didn't use it right. But
okay.
I think this is one, me and Chanuka was talking about this earlier also, this is one of the companies that actually in one language did wonders. It changed the country. So I think Api. So actually it changed the course of the country, but I don't know whether it did the same in Tamil. So like, you know,
yes.
there was a Tamil campaign, but I didn't think it touched people that how the Sinhala campaign did. So that is one thing that we should also look at.
That's an interesting example, actually. Hold on, let me. Yes, so again, thinking in languages, if we were to come to that in branding projects and in campaigns that we do, how do you think we benefit as brands, as campaigns, if we start thinking in different language, like same campaign, but bringing in the language nuance? What do you think the merits are of this? What are the, so that people can actually, you know, pitch it to a client?
I think.
Sorry, Chanuka, you can go ahead.
I think everyone should see the merit of having, like, you know, intertwined languages. Like as an example, if we are to use, I mean, day-to-day language that we use, like things like even we say machan, which is not a singular word, but we use it in singular. And you know, there are other words that have evolved through time, even in, like, you know, colloquial language, or like, you know, deep-rooted languages. There are things that has evolved through time and has actually grasped a much bigger audience than a root word. So I think there's definitely merit in having intertwined languages, and, like, you know, using so to say, like, you know, we talk in Singlish now,
Yes.
so that captures a very big audience as well. So things like that, I think that's also another example. So I think that's where we need to show the merit to a client or someone who's new to, even if it's a new designer. What we need to show in that sense is where the more you are open, the more your you know, branding capabilities, language barriers, all those things are open, the bigger your grasp is. So I think that's where we need to head as well.